up, guys. So the first thing that we're going to do is ensure that our legs are about 1 shoulder width apart this way, width ways, and also 1 shoulder width apart long ways as well. Now the reason we do that is to give us a nice center of gravity. If I was stood just upon one line like this, I'm going to be super off balance, and it's hard to kind of recorrect yourself after you spin and before you kick. So ensure this stance is here. The first thing that I like to do is take this lead foot and step it across almost in line with this foot. So I don't step it really across like this, which is what a lot of people tend to do. And when you do that, you're turning your back on the target straight away. You can't really see where you are, and also it kind of knocks off the whole rest of the move as you move through. So more on that later, but just for now, remember to only step across to here, okay? You see, if I turn, as I turn my body here, I come onto the ball of my foot, and my whole body kind of turns with my shoulders still facing, my shoulders turned a little bit, but I'm still looking towards my target of where I want to kick, which is really important throughout the move. So some people, when they do this, they don't like to step. And I think the reason that they do that is because they are trying not to telegraph the move, because they think by stepping across like this, that like your opponent's going to see it or something. But what ends up tending to happen if they do that is they do this really kind of awkward spinning motion where they just try to spin from one spot, and then it's that slow anyway because they've kind of like killed the momentum that it pretty much negates the whole point of trying not to telegraph in the first place. So I just like to do a little quick step across, and if you're fast enough with it and swift enough, it's not going to really make a difference. So here I like to step across, keep looking at the target, come onto the ball of my foot. Then the next sequence of things that I'm going to do all pretty much happen at the same time, but I'm going to talk about them all individually, okay? So the next thing that I do is I turn my body this way, and I use this back hand almost like a kind of rudder to like spin my body around and create what's called torque, which is basically the force at which an object rotates around its axis. So if you think of my body as the axis, this arm is going to act like the rudder and create torque and force to spin around and get a nice explosive hook out. And at the same time, I do use this front one almost like a little mini hook, but it's only a very, very small motion. It's not this big exaggerated motion like this where I spin around, okay? So I step across to here, then I keep turning the body round, use this arm as the rudder to turn, and I look at the target, keep looking at it as my body turns until I physically can't look at the target any longer. And at that point, I whip my head around and look back at the target again, okay? The thing you don't want to do is get lost along the way. So if I step across and I start looking here, or here, or here, or here, then I'm not going to know where the target is in order to get the kick out, okay? So you need to make sure that you get used to this thing, and it's called spotting. It's like, you know, when you see dancers do that spinning thing and they're kind of always looking forward, and it also stops you getting dizzy as well. So stepping across to here, using this arm, turn to here, my foot's flattened down now, and the next thing that we're going to do is lift up this this kicking leg into the chamber position, into here, okay? Now all the spin hook kick really is, it's a bit of an illusion. People think it's like a full spin into a kick, and all it really is basically like a step and a turn into a hook kick. So step to here, pull this arm round, lift this leg into the chamber, try to get the chamber close to the front, okay? And the higher you get it, the easier it's going to be. What a lot of people do is they'll lift the chamber back here, yeah? And if I've got the chamber here, that means I've got to extend the kick, then drag it right through the target, and before I even reach where I'm supposed to be kicking to, I've already lost so much momentum that the kick's kind of like discharged all of its energy and got no power anyway. So make sure, as you step, watch what happens to my body. I use this, and I'm in this position before I kick. Now in one of my other videos, I spoke of this concept of what I call the arc of attack, which is pretty much the distance at which a kick comes out, travels across the target, and then retracts, okay? And you want to basically get a nice kind of short arc so you can't see it coming, because if something comes towards you this way, it's much harder to read and come across as a short distance as if it comes out over here and comes right across. So step into here, and then turn through and lift up about here, okay? Now you want to extend the kick around mentally 6 inches before you get to your target, pull it across the target and retract it another 6 inches afterwards. Now it's not going to be exact, obviously, because whenever you're doing this at speed, those degrees are going to be off and stuff, but if you mentally think of that, it's going to keep you nice and tight rather than just letting it loose and being super uncontrolled and telegraphed. So step into here, lift. Now from here, the point where it extends, like I say, 6 inches before the target, boom, comes across the target and retracts in. Now it's really hard to do at slow speed, obviously, but what basically happens is when you are spinning with a lot of momentum, the kick comes across, and this all of the motion together, but especially this last part that you do, where you're doing the rechamber, from here, this spins you back into your original position. You want to pretty much end up in the same kind of position that you started in, nice and controlled. So there's this big exertion, you come right round, and then you relax again back down. So before I do any of this, I'll stay nice and relaxed. Remember, relaxation is the key to speed. So relax, tense the muscles, kick, and then relax again. It all happens in a really quick motion, yeah? Another thing to mention is, as I do come round and kick and want to rotate back around, if my foot is too rigid and rooted on the floor, I'm going to get stuck and go off balance like this, okay? So what I do like to do is, as I step to here, I like to basically kick, and then as I have done the kick, I kind of shift my weight a little bit onto my heel and let that kind of carry me around. So it's a much more smaller center of gravity, and I can rotate on that heel and then let it bring me back around. If the foot's flat, it's just going to get stuck on the floor and you're not going to be able to rotate, and you'll get stuck in position. What a lot of people tend to do with this one as well is, when they do their kick, or when they do their rotation rather, they'll rotate too far, and if you come to here, if you're in this position, you're never going to be able to turn your hips over correctly and open the hips out in order to be able to do the hook kick. So if I tried to hook kick from here, no matter how flexible or powerful I am or anything, it's going to be like one of those goofy kind of like half axe, half crescent kicks. And you know, when you see those kicks when you don't really know what they are, you don't want it to be like that, okay? So as you step, the reason that happens is they come too far and they open up their hips into more of a square position, yeah? A hook kick should it should come right across like this in a nice shape. It doesn't want to go from up to down, or like you often see this one, from down to up, when the person doesn't know how to rotate properly. And the way that you ensure this happens is basically to step, and the heel is now facing towards the target, and it stays there as I execute the kick until it finishes, at which point, as I mentioned before, I come onto that heel and let myself rotate around. So from here, you see, because my heel is still facing the target now, this is the right position that you want to be in to turn those hips and execute the hook. As I mentioned, if I step too far, it's going to be that weird one. Whereas if I step nice and across and bring it across, okay? Now, a really useful way that you can practice this if you're struggling to get the feel for it is to use something just like a wall or a chair or something to hold on to. Now, you know, I'm a big advocate of practicing kicking really slowly in order to really burn that technique in, but this is a super good way that we can utilize to basically get the feel for the spin hook kick before executing it at speed. So just like before, like everything else, I'm going to step across to here, but as I spin round, I'm going to put my hands on the wall like this and come into position, okay? So I put 2 down, or you can use 2, or you can use 1, it's up to you. Hand on the wall there, keeps in my balance, and I can really concentrate on getting the kick out into the right position. So you can do it really slowly and simply to start with. So you would turn, step, chamber, extend, and bring across and come down. And again, step, chamber, extend, and come across. And then once you're a little bit more familiar with that, you can do it slowly with flow. So basically going throughout the whole movement, but not staccato and stilted, and just doing it slowly and nice and fluidly. So the way that would look is like this. You'd step, chamber, kick, and come down. And again, step, chamber, kick, and come down. Fucking hell, it's floor.